Welcome and welcome to all of you who are joining us online at your computer. I hope you're excited to learn about what's actually a really interesting topic. So tonight's topic, it's CancerSmart. We're talking about fighting cancer with exercise. It's kind of a strange topic because exercise hasn't really been a mainstay of cancer treatment, and it's not something we often talk about, but it's really exciting because as you're going to hear tonight, that is soon going to change, and it is going to be a regular part of the dialogue. So our first topic tonight, we're calling it Exercise is Medicine. So my first question is, I'm going to go to Dr. Dang for this one. Why do you think we haven't been talking about exercise as much when it comes to cancer, and what has changed?
Thank you for that question, Sapna. You know, our patients are doing well and are doing better because of effective therapies and are surviving cancer. So that's really great news. But I think we should be reminded of what our patients endure during active therapy and what they experience and the many side effects that they undergo, including fatigue. So I think this is a perfect time to talk about a potential natural approach to mitigate many of these side effects, and one such approach may be exercise. So I think that, you know, with survivorship, we should start now thinking about how we can embed exercise into cancer care.
50-year-old Chris Boudreau just started a new exercise regime.
I burned 3 whole calories already.
3 times a week for the next 12 weeks, she'll do a 30 to 60-minute treadmill workout under the close supervision of exercise physiologists.
Feeling okay? Mm-hmm. Doing great.
The goal, to first determine whether her body will safely tolerate the exercise and ultimately see whether it could have a positive impact on the stage 4 breast cancer, which has now spread to her spine.
We're trying to test and develop exercise just like you would a new drug.
Dr. Lee Jones is an exercise scientist leading the trial at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. The trial Boudreau is part of is one of 6 currently underway here, examining the relationship between exercise and breast, lung, and prostate cancer.
A lot of the advice has been rest and take it easy after following a cancer diagnosis. So over the past 10 years, that started to change a little bit with more and more research coming out suggesting that exercise is safe.
The phase 1 trial seeks to prove the exercise is in fact safe for late-stage cancer patients like Boudreau, who's also currently undergoing chemotherapy. The next phase would look at whether the exercise could actually inhibit or delay the spread of a tumor or improve the patient's overall quality of life.
What we're trying to do is really create rigorous evidence, scientific evidence for the benefit of exercise, but really take a precision medicine approach to the study of exercise.
That means specific workouts tailored precisely to each patient.
For me, it's definitely a workout.
Boudreau understands working out won't cure her, but if there's any way it could help, she's definitely willing to try.
The understanding is that this is a uncurable situation at the time. So if they can slow my disease and create a longevity scenario where I'm functioning and healthy, what could be better?
What could be better? What could be better? Okay, so that's sort of an overview of what they do, but Dr. Jones, if you could tell us, can you give us a little bit more, talk to us about the overview of what you guys do, and then also, you know, just what patients might want to know?
So I conduct a research program. Our research program is solely dedicated just to the study of exercise in cancer. That's all that we do. So we have a team of about 18 people, all focused on this issue, and what we're trying to prove, of course, that exercise should be part of the standard of care for individuals diagnosed with cancer, just like it is in heart disease, just like it is in respiratory disease. And our job is to create the rigorous evidence that convince people to do that. So, and we do this research with Dr. Dang in breast cancer. We also work in lung cancer and prostate cancer, a number of different cancers here at Memorial, and we do this research both in animals as well as people. And we're really taking, and when I say we're trying to test and develop exercise just like you would a new drug, our drug just happens to be called exercise.
So before we go to the next topic, Dr. Dang, really quick, you've said this when we've been talking throughout. The main thing you tell your patients is listen to your body. Yeah. And that's sort of been an underlying guideline.
Yes.
You want to talk about that?
Sure. So my patients will ask me, you know, if they can exercise during cancer therapy. And it's a good question, actually. So I just tell my patients that if they were exercising before the cancer diagnosis, try to stay active and exercise during, recognizing that it would be difficult because they would experience some of the side effects from treatment, such as fatigue. So we talk about the intensity and that maybe the exercise program can be less intense, and that's okay. That's okay. Listen to your body. And for patients who didn't exercise before their cancer diagnosis, we talk about perhaps trying to start exercising during therapy, recognizing again that that is going to be difficult. But it doesn't have to be rigorous. It can be something as simple as walking. Again, listen to your body. And as you go through therapy, you may experience certain side effects, such as fatigue, at certain time points during your treatment. And if you don't feel like you can exercise, then you can rest. Just listen to your body.
So our next topic is, we're saying, can exercise stop cancer? Which is, you know, $1 million question. It's one of the two main areas of focus of the cancer research, of your cancer research program here, your program and your program, since your team's here. So one of the main questions they're trying to answer is, can exercise actually stop cancer? And what we're talking about here is more on a biological level. So can exercise actually impact the tumor itself, the cancer? Can it stop the tumor from getting bigger? Can it actually prevent cancers from forming in the first place? So that's kind of what we're talking about in this area. And it's a little tricky because some of this data is very early, it's observational data, but what we want to tell you is what we do know and what we don't know yet, but we're trying to figure out. So that's kind of the goal here. But I know this is one of the two main areas that you guys focus on. So can you just first, can exercise actually inhibit tumor growth and progression? What do we know from the research?
Yeah, it was interesting because when we first started doing these clinical trials, we were doing these randomized controlled trials of exercise. Again, this was in Canada, and it was really looking to help individuals going through therapy to help with their fatigue levels and quality of life. And so we'd be exercising individuals, and they say, Leah, you know, I feel better, but what's happening to my cancer? And at that time, we had absolutely no evidence whatsoever. So I thought, well, that's a pretty important question to go after. So just over the past 10 years, most of the research in exercise and cancer has really been focused on, can it help the symptoms of the cancer treatment? But now it's really started to evolve, if you will, as a secondary branch to look at whether it actually can treat the cancer itself. So I'll start on the prevention side of things. So we know that there's convincing evidence, and I'll come back to you what convincing means in a second. On the prevention side of things, that if you're regularly physically active, and that means exercising at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise, that's what all of us should be doing, including all of us on the stage here.
150 minutes a week.
150 minutes a week. So that's 5 days a week for 30 minits, which is less than 1% of your entire time per week. So it's really, it's not too bad. It's not too bad at all. So if you look at the individuals who report that level of exercise, those individuals, compared to individuals who don't exercise that much, have between 30 to 40% reductions in the risk of colon cancer, of breast cancer, of lung cancer. So that evidence has been classed as convincing. But all that evidence comes from observational studies. This means we're asking people how much exercise they do, and then following these individuals for long periods of time. So as you know, when we do self-report of exercise, typically most individuals over-report how much exercise they do and under-report their weight. It's just the way we are. And so that evidence is not from randomized controlled trials. We don't know if a specific amount of exercise is associated. So that's what we have on the prevention side. On the post-diagnosis side, we have the same level of evidence. It's from observational studies. These have been in three main cancers. So they've been in breast cancer, prostate cancer, and colorectal cancer, again suggesting that individuals who are meeting these exercise guidelines, 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise, have anywhere between 20 to 40% reductions in not only the cancer coming back, so cancer recurrence, but also the risk from dying from cancer, compared to individuals who don't report that level of exercise behavior.
How do these chemotherapy drugs, how do some of these targeted treatments impact the heart and the cardiovascular system, both in the short term and the long term?
The specific drugs that we give include doxorubicin, which is adriamycin, and anti-HER2 drugs like trastuzumab, which is Herceptin. Now, these are drugs that are very important and effective and have changed really the prognosis of our patients, but they are associated with about 1% to 2% risk of heart failure, both short-term and long-term. So what's short-term? Meaning acutely during therapy, which is rare, but long-term could be out to 10 to 20 years. But the good news is that our patients are surviving and living longer, so we're really grateful for that. But I think it's very important to recognize that we should do a better job in helping our patients maintain good cardiovascular health, short-term and long-term, meaning during therapy and into survivorship. So I think that certainly, it's just something that we haven't had really the foresight to look into, but we should do it now, on how to take care of our patients earlier on and as well as later.
Dr. Jones, I guess, could you talk about maybe, based on your research, what are we learning when it comes to exercise and how might it help patients in terms of their heart, patients that are going through some of these treatments that she's talking about?
Right, so we've been studying this for quite some time, and not only in breast cancer. So we've been because that's the first thing we hear from our patients is going through therapy, you feel like you've been hit by a train. And seeing this firsthand with my own father and everyone's had a family member who's been through cancer therapy. So just seeing the dramatic impact. So we were first interested in characterizing that impact. So we know that when we've measured fitness levels in individuals going through treatment, we know that they can significantly decline during treatment. And what we see is what we see in maybe 12 weeks of chemotherapy is sometimes the equivalent to maybe 10 years of normal aging. So this is how fast the system can decondition in response to treatment. So that's the bad news. The good news is we did a study, if you exercise at the same time, it completely got rid of that effect, completely. And not only that, if you've completed therapy, we showed in studies that individuals, after they completed therapy, if we exercised them just 3 days a week, it was for 12 weeks, we significantly got them back to where they were before they went through their treatment. So this is showing that not only is exercise effective to prevent some of the things that happen during therapy, but you can use it as a treatment after completion of therapy to get you back to help accelerate that recovery. And so we think that's extremely important because of the long-term side effects of treatment. We're really showing, not only us, but groups all around the world that exercise can be extremely effective to attenuate those both the acute and late effects of treatment.
And I just want to elaborate on that. It's so true that, my patients tell me that at the end of 12 weeks of treatment or 6 months of therapy, they feel aged and they don't know why, and they can't seem to quite get back to where they were. So it's nice to hear that there's actually evidence to show that something happens to our cardiovascular system during therapy.
Yeah, this is not, it's not in your mind. It's physiologically something is happening.
Right.
And so, again, the fact that we've shown and proven that you can completely and then recover, I think is extremely important.
Yeah.
And that's independent of the potential effects on tumor biology as well. So it's, I think it's really exciting. And again, this is the stuff that we're really trying to get out there.
Okay, great. So our next topic is the mind-body connection. So we've talked about how cancer can impact potentially the tumor itself and how we're still learning more about that. We've talked about how cancer can impact the heart and the cardiovascular system and how exercise can possibly help reverse that whole thing. So now we're going to talk about how exercise can improve the overall, just the overall health, even how treatments work, your whole mindset, which, as you know, there's a lot to be said for that, and that's really crucial during this time. So that's the focus of this. And with that, we have a very special guest who's going to come up right now. This is Nina. This is Nina Lindia.
Hi.
And she's actually a patient of Dr. Dang's. So she roped her into doing this. Thank you for bringing her in to do this too. We just wanted you to hear, some of you might be going through this or a loved one who's going through this, so we just kind of wanted you to hear firsthand perspective, and you can ask her questions as well. She gave us the okay for me to tell you that. So I hope that this is helpful to you too. So this is Nina. She grew up in Florence, Italy, and she moved here to the States as a little girl, and her husband is here tonight, I think. Yes? Hello to Fabio, also Italian, as you know. So they have 2 children who are going to be 6 and 3 this summer, and they were 4 and 1 when you were diagnosed, right? So a parent going through the same thing as many of you can probably relate to. Prior to becoming a stay-at-home mother, she worked at several large companies and promotions as a regional marketing director. She volunteers with numerous organizations, and she's co-founder of a nonprofit up in Greenwich, Connecticut, where they are helping to provide grants to different nonprofits to help the community. So she's involved in so many different ways. She was a patient here at Sloan Kettering, And thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So you were, thanks for being here. I know you were diagnosed almost exactly a year ago, right, with breast cancer. And can you talk about, I know you've been, and you gave me the okay to say that she's been through surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, the whole thing. Can you tell us, how did exercise help you through this whole thing?
Sure. I'll start with the surgery, which I have 2 children, and I had 2 C-sections with those to get those lovely babies of mine. And the mastectomy was something that I was pretty prepared for because I'd had surgeries before. So being active throughout my pregnancies was quite helpful to deal with the surgical process because I knew after surgery, give me 5 or 6 weeks, I could get up, I could walk. So I was ready for that. Chemotherapy and radiation were completely out of my wheelhouse, but I did ask Dr. Ding, my very first question was, can I exercise? I feel like I've seen these movies where people don't exercise when they have cancer and they sit in a bed and they're very sick. And I was scared of that happening to me because being active was largely prior to diagnosis a big part of my identity for vanity reasons. And then upon diagnosis, I didn't know the research, but I knew that it was a great idea to do it. So Dr. Deng assured me quickly and emphatically that I should absolutely do the things that I was doing before and to listen to how my body was feeling. So I was thrilled to hear that I could and that I wasn't ever told to take it easy. I was told to listen to my body, which I think is a really important, crucial, and not subtle piece of this, is that what I was capable of doing before, I absolutely did throughout treatment with Dr. Deng's blessing and supervision.
And Dr. Deng, you've been seeing patients for so long. What do you see in your patients who exercise? What are some of the benefits?
Sure. So, well, Dr. Jones had talked about how patients can age during therapy, about 10 years. So, and I've watched the spectrum, and I have to say that many of us don't exercise. So I do believe from my own observation that that in the patients who weren't exercising before or during, that just took longer, to recover and were more tired. But when I saw Nina in great shape when I first met her, and I really encouraged her to continue, I was so happy that she wanted to pursue it. So I support her 100%. And she just flew through treatment like a champion. I mean, she was amazing. I mean, she would work out every day, and she would work out, I think before or after treatment, I think it was very important that you were able to come into treatment at a specific time so that you can squeeze in your workout. Yes. And that was just key for Nina, and that was who she was and is and will be, and I believe in that. And she recovered so beautifully, and I don't think she ever missed a day of exercise, and it's as if though she didn't take treatment at all. I mean, she just recovered well, and I was impressed. So from my own observation, I mean, I think that exercise does matter and has mitigated the symptoms I think Nina could have had, but she didn't. So yes, I'd love to just show her off that she's doing very well.
If I may add to that, just specifically when meeting with Dr. Deng, I had dose-dense treatment, so I had every 2 weeks. It became, we met before or after treatment to discuss, I guess, side effects. Yeah. And it just became that we would just kind of talk about my kids and what I was doing exercising, because I just had very little to report in the side effect category. I never needed the steroids that that you could have. Absolutely. And never vomited or felt overwhelming fatigue in any capacity. And so we spent our time discussing other things. But I felt the side effects were almost completely mitigated, and in large part due to exercise.
Right. It's as if though I begged her to come see me. She didn't really need to see me. She was doing so well. So it became like a social moment that we had together every time. It was wonderful. Yeah.
Can you just briefly tell us, what was your routine? What did you do, and did it change as, during your course of chemo? What did you do for exercise?
I played, specifically, I would absolutely able to play 90 minutes of tennis during treatment. I participated almost weekly in a program called Soul Cycle, which is a indoor biking, very sweaty, very loud, very dark. So when you are bald, it was great because I did not feel at all like anybody was looking at me because the room is so dark and so loud. No one was concerned with me. This is a similar cardio elliptical class, and I also at least once a week did personal training involving supervision, lifting heavy weights. Again, the supervision was mostly due to the mastectomy and not so much due to the chemotherapy. What I did not do, and what I would sort of include in my advice for anyone going through this, is go to large, crowded gyms, because I was concerned about the germs. So walking was germ-free. I did a lot of that too, especially on my bad days when I felt ill. Sometimes feeling ill, I would just say, okay, before I take a pill, let me go for a walk. And I would grab one of my children, and we would go and do just that. And 9 times out of 10, I never needed that pill. So I had bad days, and those days included just a walk. And on my great days, I was doing exactly what I did in my former life.
Were there any other concerns that you had, things that you asked Dr. Dang about, things that you were worried about? That you
I think that a lot of us that find ourselves in the position of facing this disease I was really concerned about just never, ever being able to do what I used to be able to do. I never thought that during treatment I'd be able to do it. I thought maybe 3 years after I'd get back to 60% of who I was. And I really just think Dr. Dang and her team did such a great job of encouraging me all the time to keep on exercising. And the lack of the side effects drove that home for me, that I just, even when I felt like not exercising, like I said, I would at least take a walk, and it made me feel so much better. So my concerns were in general for myself, and I'm just so happy to report that my small sample size of 1 exercise saved me in what has been the hardest year of mine and my family's life. So we're thrilled to have that as our prescription.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. If we could give her a round. Thank you very much for being here. What are sort of your take-home guidelines? So if you for people who are wondering, okay, so what the heck should I be doing? What should I be doing? What should I not be doing? What do you say?
You asking me?
Yeah. We'll start with you because you're closer.
So I think it's easy in one respect to say that everybody should be exercising at the guidelines, so which is I referred to earlier, this 150 minutes. But it turns out that guideline is the same for me as it is for every single person in this room, as it is for Dr. Dang. So we have this very generic prescription. And I think that's been almost the Achilles heel of exercise, because what we do know is exercise is extremely personal, it's extremely individualized. So I could easily say, well, the exercise guidelines for cancer survivors are 150 minutes, but I just don't think that would be fair to say that. If you're not doing anything, if you're doing nothing right now, then certainly trying to get up to that 150 minutes, that's going to be beneficial. But what we really want to know is what prescription, what dose for every single person in this room. So what do we have, 80 people in this room? So that dose of exercise might be a little bit different for everybody, and it's going to be different depending on what's the goal of your program. We're finding out now that the amount of exercise that you do to maybe protect the heart might be entirely different than the amount of exercise you need to do to maybe stop your cancer coming back. So exercise is very individualized. Its effects and the effects it has on the body are very different. So within this room, the question I would have to ask every single person is, what are you doing right now? Have you got any, comorbidities that we should know about? And then I could start prescribing. If you're not doing anything, then the first thing, of course, is to, I would say, start exercising at least 3 days a week, even if it's for 10 to 15 minutes at a time. That's going to be extremely beneficial. And we know that just going from nothing to doing something has extreme benefits.
And Dr. Dang, I know you touched on some of this, but what is sort of your bottom line when patients ask you, when patients are, what do you tell them when it comes to exercise?
Listen to your body and stay active. Yeah, those are the 2, bullet points, really. like what we said earlier on, if you were exercising beforehand, try to stay active during. And if you can't do the same level of intensity of exercise as before, it's okay. Just do your best. And if you weren't exercising before, try to start. It can be something as simple as walking. Just try. But again, just listen to your body, stay active. Just try.
And you mentioned one quick thing that reminded me, I meant to bring this up, that we kind of talked about, there's the guilt factor that some people might feel I want to exercise, but I can't, or I just, now I'm telling myself I should, and this could actually be reversing, and I just can't. I don't feel like I can.
Right.
Any thoughts for that?
Right.
The guilt factor?
That's a tough one. I think that's a tough one. I think, just try to remove the barrier and just start. It doesn't have to be hard and stringent. It can just be a walk, a simple walk. I think once you start, and you'll be able to just allow yourself to go further. Again, listen to your body. I think that's just so important, just to know yourself and know what you can do. Like Lee said, exercise, what is that? It's whatever you're willing to do. Whatever, it could be biking, walking, swimming, whatever you're willing to do. Okay.
And I thought it was interesting what you said, that there's really no instance where you would tell somebody not to exercise. If they're feeling okay and up for it, there's really no reason not to.
Absolutely. Even when the blood count is dropping and you feel okay, there's no evidence to say that you shouldn't exercise. Just listen to your body. It'll tell you.
Can I just add to that?
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly personalized, right? So somebody can go through the same therapy and you can have a completely different reaction. And I think sought after, exercise physiologists are out there in the community, and they really know about exercise, what the limitations are to exercise, and they can really help individuals, through this, because it is going to be extremely specific to each individual. So, I think if on days where you feel completely flat out, I don't think people should exercise on those days. So you have to go a little bit by feel factor, the days you feel good. So I think, like Chao said, you listen to your body, but I think on those days where you think, well, maybe I could, going out on those days, and inevitably you're going to feel better. So, but we're now testing, and we want to not only just say, that's my opinion, I want to give you the evidence to show that that's true.
And that's the goal. That is the goal.
That's right.
Just wanted to address a couple myths that you guys have said come up sort of time and again from your patients. Has anyone wondered this? This is our first myth. Will exercising spread my cancer? I don't know if anybody's wondered that. You're exercising, you're moving. Your thoughts? That's a myth.
So we'll exercise. So this is another question that came up quite a lot when we were doing our very first studies. And I'm exercising, my blood flow is increasing. Is that increasing the likelihood that cancer cells are going to spread? So we started doing some of this. Of course, we have this epidemiologic research, and no study to date ever has shown that if you exercise, you get an increased risk of your cancer coming back. There's not a single clinical study that shows that. But we also wanted to look at this in mice. So we've got, believe it or not, we've got little mouse treadmills. Rebecca's our preclinical lab manager at the back there. She runs all our experiments. And so we can deliver very specific amounts of exercise to mice that are harboring lung cancer, prostate cancer, breast cancer. And what we found was the opposite, is cancers grow slower in response to exercise. And what we found, which was kind of intriguing, is we put these mice who had exercised into an MRI scanner. So if any of you have been for an MRI scan, we have one of these for mice, believe it or not. So we can image mice and image their tumors, and we can look about how much blood is going into these tumors when you exercise. And it turns out that when you do that, you see that and they light up, the more blood that's in them, the more that they light up. And if you look at a mouse that's exercised and you look at their tumors, they light up like light bulbs, which shows that there's significantly more blood flow into tumors. And you're probably sitting there thinking, this is exactly what we don't want, but just bear with me. And then compared to control mice that are exercising, their tumors are very dull. But when that happens, you get a decrease of something in the tumor called hypoxia. Basically, the level of oxygen within the tumor that significantly decreases in response to exercise. And Because of that, the tumor cells become less aggressive and they don't spread as aggressively. The other thing that's important about that is this hypoxia is one of the major reasons why chemotherapy doesn't work. Because chemotherapy is delivered through the bloodstream, and if you can't get much blood flow into these tumors, it's very hard to kill tumors because we can't get the chemotherapy into the tumor in the first place. So what we thought, well, if we've got a situation with exercise where you're improving blood flow, what if you combine that with treatment? Would the treatment work more effectively? And that's exactly what we just found. So we just published this paper last year. Admittedly, it's in mouse models, but what we found is when we looked at chemotherapy in combination with exercise compared to chemotherapy alone, the combination was associated with the slowest tumor growth. So not only now we've got evidence to suggest that exercise might help prevent some of the side effects of the treatment, but we've actually got some initial evidence suggesting that that combination actually might make that treatment more effective at killing the tumor cells as well. So now we're taking that information, and now Dr. Dang and I actually just met last week, and we've just started designing a human experiment where we also look to see if we can actually, this is happening in people.
One of the other questions that came up was, is it possible to overdo it? Should I worry about harms of doing too much, exercising too much? Any thoughts?
Harms towards the cancer or harms in general? I mean, if we do too much, then we feel discomfort, right? Pain in our muscles and so on. But that goes with everybody. But if we're talking about harms to how the cancer responds, and there's just no evidence to support that. So I would say, again, listen to your body. Just do as much as you can, and stop when you feel like it's time to stop. Yeah.
Okay, yes. So do it. So the overall message I think today that we hope you get from this is that, as they learn more and can sort of give you that more specific, exact prescription down the road, that still for now the new message is that it's not only okay to exercise during cancer, but recommended or encouraged to do so while listening to your body throughout the whole time, which I know she said a million times. There is, of course, more information on the Sloan Kettering website, mskcc.org. And one more round of applause for our guest, for Nina. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing your story and for being so open with us. And thank you to our panelists. One more round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you for being here. I hope that you got something useful out of this tonight. Thank you for having me. Have a great night. Thank you.